Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon to all of you. Respected Regional Director Dr. Shahnawaz Ahmad Dar Saab, our guest today, Dr. Manzoor Ahmad Shah Saab, and my staff at RC Srinagar, our esteemed Assistant Regional Director Dr. Mudassir Hassan Bhatt, and the people who have joined for this lecture. Basically, as you all of know, today we are celebrating the National Science Day as the day is being celebrated across the country. And today we are also celebrating this day under the theme as Global Science for Global Wellbeing. And for this lecture, we have invited our special guest, Dr. Manzoor Ahmad Shah Saab from University of Kashmir. So before I start, I request Dr. Manzoor Ahmad Shah Saab to deliver the lecture. I would like to request our respected Regional Director, Dr. Shahnawaz Ahmad Dar Saab, to please formally welcome the guests and just elaborate about the importance of National Science Day. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Javed Saab. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So, respected Professor Manzoor Ahmad Shah Saab, Director DICA, and Professor Department of Botany, University of Kashmir. So, welcome, sir, to this session. Thank you very much for accepting our request at the very short time and then being a part of these activities that we are conducting for regarding the National Science Day 2023. Assistant Regional Director Dr. Mudassir Hassan Bhatt, my staff from Regional Center Srinagar, coordinators from different colleges of the valley, participants of this session, IGNO learners. So, Assalamu alaikum and good morning to all of you. I welcome you all to this session so that we are basically conducting in connection with the series of the activities that we have lined up for the National Science Day 2023. We all know that we celebrate National Science Day all over the country to inculcate the scientific temper and innovate mindsets among the students, faculty, and public. National Science Day this year will be celebrated on Tuesday, February 28th, that is 2023. I would like to inform all the participants that the first National Science Day was celebrated on February 28, 1987. On this day, we basically remember the invention of Raman effect by the well-known Nobel laureate of India, the Indian scientist, Dr. C.V. Raman. So it was basically in 1987, so when we started celebrating this National Science Day. So I would like to say that our lives are in a culture where we may see two kinds of individuals. Any set of people who follow a religious journey and who hold this belief above science. And from the other side, to me, there are some who thrive on achieving new heights in scientific and scientific and technological developments. So people believing in technological miracles, so they prefer to, I believe, commemorate the National Science Day in the same manner they prefer to observe their cultural and religious observances. So we know science pushes us to our limits. Everything in our environment is based on science. The National Science Day is for those who believe in science, scientists, the next generation of scientists and technologists, and those who are fascinated by scientific discoveries. So, in this regard, National Science Day is marked to raise awareness about the importance of science in people's daily lives and to recognize all of the activities, projects, and achievements in the field of technology that basically have helped the humanity. So it is commemorated by implementing new technologies for scientific growth, providing opportunities for scientifically inclined individuals in India, and encouraging and popularizing technology and science. So, the credit for organizing and for celebrating this day goes to one person, the person to whom we know as CV Raman, and who is famous for the Raman effect. So basically, the scientist, Dr. CV Raman, was an Indian physicist, so which was well recognized for his light transmission research, I believe. So Dr. C.V. Raman was the first Asian to win the Nobel Prize in any field of science when he received the Nobel Prize. Uh, and now each year, the theme for Science Day are varied. So that basically highlights a particular aspect of the nation's society. The themes are basically intended to recognize the contributions of common people, students, employees, popular officials, and representatives from from a major scientific institution. So this event, the National Science Day, uh, honors basically Sir C.V. Raman's outstanding contributions to research and discovery by providing hope and inspiration to the future generations to pursue their goals. To not and only with a single breakthrough in any area, but to continue hunting the nation's greatness in every way possible. So we commemorate National Science Day to recognize science grandeur with the goal of eradicating taboos and accepting that environment is mostly about science, as scientific research is mostly about environment in whatever way fits your finest. Uh, Regarding the National Science Day, as per Ministry of Education's Innovation Cell and Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, the National Science Day is to be celebrated by all the higher education institutions and schools. So, in this context, at IGNOU, the NCID and School of Science have jointly in consultation with the Regional Services Division or organizing various types of science, technology, and innovation promotion activities in the university, both at the New Delhi IGNOU headquarters and at the regional centers spread all across India. Over 1 month, that has started from February 1, 2023, and that will conclude on the February 28th, that is the National Science Day 2023. So we are conducting various activities in connection with the National Science Day, uh, wherein basically the inauguration and announcement of the various events. So along with the popular science talks was started by an expert, which was addressed by Honorable Vice Chancellor Indira Gandhi National Open University also. So we have launched on that day the poster making competition, essay writing competition, and ideathon, wherein the theme for these competitions is science, technology, and innovation for national development. Uh, on the concluding day, that's on the National Science Day, so the function will be organized at the headquarters and at the regional centers in the hybrid mode. So, wherein we will be basically announcing the winners of these various contests, and the award function will be held. So, it will be followed by the presentation of the status report on IGNOU's contribution to science and technology, and there will be some popular science talks by the experts in the different areas. That will be also done on the final day, on the final event, when we'll be basically having that function on the National Science Day 2023 on the 28th February. So, in this connection, we have invited today a researcher whose research is commendable in his area. So, I would like to request Javed Saab to please tell us something about Dr. Manzoor Ahmad Shah Saab's research contributions and his area of research and the contributions that he has made in his area of research. So I once again thank you, Manzoor Saab, for sparing your valuable time to be with us to deliver the lecture on the theme of the National Science Day, which is Global Science for Global Wellbeing. Thank you very much, sir.
My pleasure. My
Thank you
pleasure.
very much, sir. Before I request our guest to deliver the lecture, I have the opportunity to read out this small bio of our guest. So, Dr. Manzoor Ahmad Shah is currently the professor of botany at University of Kashmir and has been a faculty affiliate at the University of Montana, USA, and a visiting professor at King Saudi University, Riyadh. His basic research experience cross-cut various aspects of Himalayan biodiversity such as freshwater ecosystem, plant invasion, community ecology, and plant-soil microbe interactions. Besides this, he has published two books and over 100 high-impact research papers and book chapters, in recognition of which he has been awarded several national and international fellowships and prestigious awards such as the Indo-US 21st Century Knowledge Initiative Award, formerly known as Obama Singh Award, gold medal from Indian Academy of Environmental Science. Dr. Shah has supervised various PhD and MPhil scholars. Apart from this, he has been the principal investigator and coordinator of many national and international projects, including an Indo-US, Indo-German, and Indo-Canadian project. Professor Shah has been and is presently the member of Task Force for various project advisories, assessment committees, Government of India. He has traveled quite widely as an invited speaker at various scientific meetings, conferences within India and abroad, especially in countries such as USA, Canada, Germany, Sweden, Hungary, Saudi Arabia, and France. In his administrative capacity as a director of DICA, he has the distinction of steering the University of Kashmir from grade A to grade A plus by NAC, in recognition of which the university was granted the highest research and innovation grant under RUSA, that is also coordinated by Professor Shah. So now I would like to request our guest to please start the lecture. Over to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Assalamu alaikum and very good afternoon to all of you. At the outset,
At the outset,
Walaikum salam.
my sincere thanks to Dr. Shahnawaz Dar Sahab, who is the regional director of IGNO, of course, our colleague at the university and a friend indeed. It's a pleasure to meet all of you virtually, though this was a time when we could have probably met physically as well. But I'm sure that there would be a time when we meet soon. Well, talking about the Science Day and especially the topic that has been kind of just can I share my slides first so that we put things.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
So please tell me, do you see these slides now? Just give it.
No, sir, not
No, sir, not yet.
Not yet. Okay, just give a bit.
Now, yes.
I think it,
Yes, now it is visible.
yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is
Yes, sir.
visible now.
Okay. You got it in this full screen mode as well, right?
right, sir. Right, sir.
Good. So, as Dr. Shahnawaz said, that he deliberated upon the context of the Science Day, which I will not repeat.
Sir, sorry to interrupt you. Could you please be a little louder, sir, please?
Okay, yeah. So, Dr. Shahnawaz did talk about the background of the Science Day, and just give me a second, maybe I take it closer. And the theme of this, the theme is the global science for global well-being, right? And this is so general and so central to every individual that I thought, let me kind of dissect it from the very basics. We all talk about human well-being. We all talk about global well-being, of course. But what exactly it means? Let's try to understand that first. As human beings, we always have the desire of living a peaceful life, a good life, right? And the desire of life to go well is actually what you call as in general sense the well-being. That means it has two aspects: feeling good and when you are functioning, when you are working well. Now, if you look at this well-being as a concept, we feel good because of a number of reasons. For example, when you have your loved ones around, when you see any of your kids or your students doing exceptionally good, you feel good. Or for that matter, when you are healthy, you feel good. Everything contributes to this well-being. But there's a small line of distinction uh, between feeling good and functioning good. Feeling good means that, for example, everything is going fine and we are feeling good, and all of a sudden, God forbid, we do not feel well because of some issues with the health. So this is a kind of transient state. Or for that matter, if someone passes away of the years and years, that feeling is also, and this is something very basic and human, right? And second is, one, you are feeling emotionally good, which is generally called as hedonic feeling. Second is when you feel engaged doing some productive discourse in life, contributing to the community, right? And you have that sense of functioning well as well. So these two feelings combined together make what you call as the sustainable well-being. The other one, when you feel, for example, functionally good, you call it also as, in Platonic terms, the eudaimonic feeling or well-being. Now, dear colleagues and dear friends, you must have recently come across this news when this United Nations Sustainable Development Solution Network came out with the World Happiness Report. And if you look at the happiest countries, say for example, topmost is the Finland, followed by Denmark, Iceland, Switzerland, Netherlands are the topmost happiest countries. And you know the benchmarks on the basis of which basically they work about this, you know, work out this happiness index. And if we look at India, somehow we are not faring so well. Unfortunately, they evaluated only around 115 countries, and we figure 136, which is quite dismal. That means, despite being a great country, despite being culturally so diverse, despite having so n number of kind of reasons for us to be happy, there is something that basically does not make us happy. And what is that? And coincidentally, this year, is the year of India's G20 presidency, something that India is really proud of. And what does this G20 presidency mean vis-a-vis bringing in the overall well-being of the state, of the populace of the state, and of course, global sphere as well, because this is a global policy platform, the G20. So there is something for us to therefore think about. What is it that is lacking, and what is it that basically G20 presidency again kind of encourages us or calls us upon to basically think over. So, dear colleagues, with this background, the second point is, since we are talking about science, we are celebrating the Science Day. The fundamental question, and in the context of the theme, the fundamental question is science related to the well-being, right? And I'm sure when ask this question, all of you will probably agree with me, yes, why not? And I conceptualize this question in a different perspective. Imagine yourself, for example, you are traveling from space, and you have an option to land on two planets, planet A versus planet B. For example, you take it as planet A and this is planet B. Planet A is something that was earlier, as when we evolved as and imagine that there would not have been any scientific breakthroughs so far. And now, when we have witnessed all these magnificent, path-breaking scientific, discourses all across the world. So that is planet B, and the earlier one, which has not witnessed anything else, is planet A. Where would you like to land? Tell me honestly. And it's a very fundamental question, right? So I am sure that all of you would probably like to land on the planet B, right? Because who would not like to enjoy the the fascinating, you know, things that science has given for our, comfort, and for our, better quality of life. And I must tell you, when we think about the human well-being or human being as such, there are many aspects to human nature. As human beings, if you evaluate your own self, you are a cultural being connected to your culture around. We are basically linked to many species, plants, and animals around through different interactions, what we call as biotic interactions. The mental health and the mental peace, for example, the societal health, physical health, all these things somehow, uh, the kind of space that we enjoy in nature, the quality of that space, and all these ultimately determine the quality of life, and that quality of life is somehow linked to the well-being. And if you talk about science in general, science is all about curiosity. When you are curious to know how things happen, why things happen, you know you try to mechanistically understand the reasons behind things. And the excitement, once you ask a question in science and then you pursue it through your observational studies or your experimental studies, and you come across something new, it always is an exciting feeling, eureka feeling, what is generally called as, isn't it? And that is the beauty of science. And if you look at these two important things, curiosity and excitement, for a scientist who is really curious to know about anything, once he gets an answer to the question that he asks after conducting a particular, experiment or the study, the excitement, the excitement that he gets is probably the happiest moment of ever in his life, and it is somehow connected to his well-being. So, dear colleagues, there is no there I don't think there are any two opinions regarding the fact that science is so paramount uh, in improving the lives of people. If you compare the life of two planets, say for example the planet when there was no scientific intervention whatsoever, what to when you have seen every scientific discovery having changed the human discourse, you can appreciate this fact that science is really so paramount to the to our lives. And this science has driven the global transformation so far, and it is still doing so. I must tell you, if you compare the quality of life between the developed world and the developing world, the reason is science. As Dr. Shahnawaz said in his opening remarks, that there are two types of people who are deeply connected to their religion but not so necessarily to the science, and vice versa is also true. The people who are connected to science, for example, the way we have the tombs and the shrines of our revered saints here in Kashmir, for example, or in India in general. If you go to France, for example, I have seen the this tomb of Louis Pasteur. They celebrate scientists that way. They celebrate science that way. And science is somehow in the temperament of those societies. And that is what I precisely believe, after having traveled to places across the world, that this scientific temperament has probably led to the kind of zenith of progress that these nations have seen, isn't it? So, how do we inculcate this? This science, National Science Day, actually calls upon to inculcate this scientific temperament in the masses, in the students, in the societies all across. And the science, dear colleagues, is borderless. The beauty of science is, as I said, its excitement, its curiosity, and then its very nature of being borderless. Since science is borderless, and so is the instinct of human beings to be happy, what collectively is linked to the human well-being. And when I say science is borderless, I am substantiating it with my own example. That we work actually in botany with plants, and one of the plants, for example, is this. You might have seen this plant, Coryza canadensis. This is called as. This is a plant, for example, when we asked a question about it, say 10 years back, or in fact, more than that. We wanted to understand its behavior here, because this is a plant which has come to us from the North America. It is a North American native. Here it is an exotic plant. It's an invasive plant. It spreads. Now, we asked a simple question: why does it spread here but not in its native place? And thanks to this scientific, uh, I would say, the digital platforms that were available to us, that helped us to connect with the people across the globe, wherever this plant grows in the world, we got people on board to observe certain patterns of this plant in their own regions. If you can see these dots, these red dots and the blue dots are in their native range, North American belt. And this is all across Asia, China, Europe, and all other places. So, India, Kashmir, and everything including. So, we have been able to, over the period of time, last 10 years, I must tell you, develop a global community that studies the same plant for similar type of characteristics across the globe. And this is what that's why I'm telling you that the science is borderless, or for that matter, any discovery that science makes, its impacts are borderless. They go beyond political and these boundaries. And over the years, we have been studying the patterns of these plant. With a very broad range, over 100 global collaborators now, and some real great scientific breakthroughs are coming out of it. For example, this is a paper that was recently published in the ISME Nature about how this plant differs in native and non-native regions. This is just one example. So I'm trying to tell you that how this is borderless, and its offshoots, its dividends are borderless. And if you see, for example, in this paper, we have a global team of. Here I remind you, there was a workshop held in the Oxford University, Cambridge University, a couple of years back. And this workshop was about how this digital technology has transformed science, right? And the workshop was chaired by a person who was very senior, around 90 years old or so, a very senior professor. And he compared basically his time when he was a professor or a researcher, when there was no digital technology, no emails, no correspondence the way we see it now, and now. And then he was trying to compare whether science has progressed this by this or not. Although I am sure that all of you can agree with me that there are many negative follow-ups of this technology as well, because we have been, you know, sort of plagiarism, so on and so forth. I'll not go into those details. My point is that his point was that if this digital technology would not have developed, would not have evolved, it would not have been possible for scientists to ask global scale questions and collaborate at such a large scale. And that's so fundamentally true with us as well. This is not true, of only one part of science. Is true for all branches of science. So, dear colleagues, I believe that science and nature are borderless classes actually. If you go to nature anywhere, I mean, they are so paramount to improve people's lives, as I said, and the achievements that scientific discourses ultimately yield, those achievements have global implications, and beyond these implications are beyond political and the geographical boundaries. I will again give you one more example. Say all of you, we see these now, we are now almost the winter is retreating, and we are now embracing the spring, and we see around these flowers, kind of, flowers are going to be blooming now. And these, the time when the flowers come out of the plants, tell you, they are giving you a message about the climate of the place. And I'm sure that you must be knowing it as a common, as having common observation, that there are some plants that used to flower, for example, in March, now are flowering in February only. Now the question is why? Probably the climate change has happened over the period of time. Now, what I want to tell you is, when I was trying to emphasize the borderless nature of science, we have a botanical garden in the University of Kashmir. Likewise, all universities across Europe, across the world, have their own botanical gardens. And it was decided that let's monitor some species. When do they flower across the globe? At what time, and how this timing changed over the period of time? And there's a network called FENOPS, and this is such a wonderful network. We are part of this network. You can see basically here, along with many global botanical gardens, and there are lots of new observations that are coming up. For example, this paper was published very recently, which tells you that there has been a change globally so far the flowering pattern is concerned and the climate is concerned. And these basically, as someone said in the introduction, once you become part of these discourses, I, for one, have been very nice beneficiary of these, and we did run quite a few international projects. So, dear students, I must tell you one thing. If there are any students also in the here in the session, that if you are doing good science, I believe that good science offers free travel packages as well. As I said, because of collaborating with people across the world, there are many opportunities that are coming up. Through these projects that I talked about, most of my students had an opportunity to visit to Canada, US, Europe, Germany, and all across the places. And they have got nice fellowships. And it is basically the government that is paying for their travel, for doing science, for understanding, for satisfying their curiosity. I mean, quite a few, at least 5, 6, 7 students from my lab have been to all these places. And for example, she's right now in US. Uzma is in Canada. He did also, also working in Germany. So my point is this: this is the beauty of science, right? So how do we therefore encourage our kids, our students, to pursue quality science so that they reap these all collateral benefits of science? That is something that needs science communication and outreach. And that's what, for example, IGNO is all about. The university is all about. The institutions of higher education is all about. So science communication and outreach, I believe, is very much part of doing science. One is that we do science. Fine enough. There are not many people who are doing science, but quite a few people who are doing science and getting the scientific breakthroughs. How are we communicating these scientific breakthroughs to our society, to which actually this science is to be translated into some sort of benefits, right? So the point is that there are different sorts of communication gaps. How we communicate science with a layman is $1 million question. Okay, you talk about your scientific breakthrough to a scientist, he can understand it. But how does your science make sense to a common man is for you a very important job to do. And that's what actually the Science Day primarily emphasizes. How do we talk about science to the common people? How do we make common men to reap the best possible benefits of science and scientific progress? And in that regard, DST, Government of India, came up with a novel initiative. And the initiative was that they encouraged and equipped PhD scholars in the universities and the institutions, and even the postdoctoral fellows, with skills to communicate science with lay people. How do we communicate? They created actually this cash prize. Every year this cash prize is being distributed on February 28th, the National Science Day, to 100 best articles by PhD students and 20 best articles by the postdoctoral fellows in in the science communication area. How the science is communicated. So I believe institutions like, for example, IGNO can do a great deal in the communication of science and scientific, stories to the common people. I have this feeling. This is something that I discussed with some people before as well, that we should have a nodal contact point within each institution for who would interact with the journalists, who would interact with the media, for instance, for the dissemination of credible information and accomplishments that are happening in our science labs. For example, I must tell you, in the University of Kashmir, there are many good things happening so far this scientific, research is concerned. But our society does not probably know about that. That research is published in high impact journals in US, I mean, across the world. But and in the language which is, for example, largely English, not understood by the common people so easily. So how can we translate into the translate the common messages from the scientific discoveries in vernacular languages is something which is actually needed, and that's what this National Science Day actually calls us for. And this communication of science to the society, I'm sure, is going to change the temperament of the society. As we have been discussing, that by temperament, probably we are not a scientific society, I must say. Why? Because if anything happens to us, we don't generally think in scientific ways. अगर फॉर एग्जाम्पल बच्चा बीमार है या ऐसा ऐसा खूचमुत कुछ और हो जाए, so this is probably something that superstitious or supernatural that is thing that has happened. And if you look at people outside, quite often when I travel and when I come back to home, I discuss with my family sometimes also. इस कश्मीर में अक्सर वरन से तसरुफ और बोझान इंसान कहीं थी. That means there is something basically that is in our temperament which is not, we don't believe in science the way they do. And this science, this how do we basically change this temperament of society regarding science? For that, science outreach is very fundamental, and this science outreach has to engage people into basic scientific methods. And many scientific, science public outreach programs are there, but they probably do not do this. There are some good examples. For example, these astronomy programs, some amateur astronomy programs. What they do is they give these telescopes. Once they go to the society, they talk to a community. They get these adults and the children alike out, and then they give these telescopes to them and ask them to gaze these stars. And once you have a telescope in your own hand, you gaze these stars, you start looking at it from your own perspective. And that's how the scientific, do you appreciate this, something which you have not seen before, you are seeing now. So therefore, the best example of placing the scientific method in the hands of people uh, is the, engaging with these common citizens and talking about different science, uh, science, methods and the outcomes. Now, if we are interested in doing this scientific outreach or science outreach, we have to select the appropriate geographical location. What I have seen, generally, some of the institutions of higher education are involved in these universities, for especially. What they do is they choose a village somewhere nearby, and kind of sometimes in the cities and around the cities, people are still aware. But choosing a place far off where people do not have any idea of science, that makes a different, feel. Then idea of establishing these tinkering labs is very important nowadays in the innovative India thinking. Corporates are supporting this idea. For example, Tata came to the University of Kashmir recently and they offered that we can support you if you can establish a lab, uh, what they call as tinkering labs, wherein they will put all these scientific gadgets, and anybody who has any scientific idea but does not have access to those gadgets at home will come to the place and basically play with those gadgets and maybe converting his or her innovative ideas into some products. So, and then how best we engage these kids talking about science through different models is I'm sure that going to be helpful. So this is Friday. I will try to be faster with you, since we all have to go for out the prayers as well. One thing that I am basically going, briefly mentioning is that I was part of a program, the national sort of a program, what's called as POST, Popular Outreach by Scientists and Technologies, few years back, and we came up. We had quite a few workshops, brainstorming sessions, uh, and we came up with some ideas that were shared with the government of India and also with the academies of three academies of sciences that are there. So one idea was, can we establish a 2-year fellowship or grant for undergraduate students, master students, or even PhD students to engage with media for the content generation in order to popularize the science, for science popularization. Second idea was suggested was, can we institute a 6 week split internship to fund a undergraduate or master's student to spend, for example, 3 weeks at a scientific institution and then 3 weeks with an elected representative, maybe a bureaucrat who is in the policy making or the member of parliament or MLA, whatever. And then how best we can communicate these science stories to our society. So that's very important. Now, since Science Day is largely commemorated in the honor of Sir C.V. Raman, when we think that he was an Indian, he got the Nobel Prize, he did something really outstanding in science, we are also not different. We can do even better. That's why always in the local contexts, if we project the scientific, those people who have done great in science, it always helps people to get inspired, especially the younger generations. And how can we bridge this divide between science and society? One more, a couple of things that can be done is that we undertake science media communication competitions quite often at the school levels, and we engage with the existing local social organizations, schools, museums, and even planetariums to organize popular science lectures, as is being done now, say for example by the IGNO. Then how can we promote interaction between scientists, public personalities, and elected representatives? That's what I talked about. And we thought that every uh, research institutions, universities generally, should organize at least one open day for public to visit their labs and interact with the scientific community there. That's what helps to spread the message out. And the scientific temperament, once they come and visit the labs, they get to know about those things. And since we are now in the digital era, and this is called as the era of platforms, all these social media platforms, for example Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp, LinkedIn, whatever, what jo bhi hai, these platforms can be so useful for us to connect with the society, and basically build more awareness about the science that is being done globally, and of course locally as well. And there are many citizen science platforms now available that are basically doing this. And dear colleagues, I must tell you, in this era of information, there is something connected to human being, what is called as now the digital well-being. And this digital well-being actually is all about, I mean, how the impact of digital technologies is there, regarding what we call as uh, living a good life. In an information society that we live in today's society, अब देख लीजिए, you have the smartphone in your hand, you have laptops, you have TVs, you have other things. There are so many distractions as well. Whether how does all this technological scenario, this digital technologies overall, how do they affect us, how good they are us for us, to make us as good human beings, is something what is considered in this digital well-being. And these digital technologies are deployed so rapidly across disciplines, across sectors, across different facets, that they have really modified our relationship to our own selves. If you look at, for example, if this mobile phone has become an extension of ourself now. If you do not have mobile phone in your hand, sometimes you feel kind of something is missing, even if you are in the washroom, right? So what has made us so dependent on this? So why are we always so into this? Can we think of sometimes leaving it aside for a week or so and trying to imagine the life that would have been there without this distraction, isn't it? What are our relations with each other? For example, you must have seen in the WhatsApp many times circulating the photographs when the families meet up from the global regions, when the families come on a, say for example, on the eve of Eid or something, despite being in the same room after having met after such a long time, you will see most of the people are in their own devices. Not They do not really meet the way we used to enjoy the pleasure of physical meeting before. So this has completely changed the human scenario. And in healthcare, we can see how, of course, the quality of life health wise has improved a lot, but we need to kind of so that is why this Einstein once said that he feared the day that technology will surpass our human interactions, and then the world will have the generation of idiots. And sometimes when you look at the impact of this digital technology on our society as well, it looks like that this is really true. So without going into the details, maybe I will have to skip some few things. If you look at the different global policy platforms that have that are in place, for example, there are IPBES, Intergovernmental Panel, for IPCC, IPBES, United Nations. These are all United Nations actually, policy platform institutions. So the outcome of these institutions so far is the message. They all of them basically have 4-year assessment reports, and after those reports, the assessment is that the window of action globally is closing rapidly, and we need to think globally, but we need to act locally. And of course, as we say that be vocal for local, yet I would say that we need to take best of global. So dear colleagues, nothing uh, more than this. So we are in a time, as I said, when India is celebrating this G20 presidency, and the theme of this is Vasudev Kutumbakum, one earth. The world is one family. One earth, one family, one future is the theme of this G20 presidency. And nothing more than this pandemic that we recently witnessed made us realize the importance of this oneness. Because world has realized that if you ensure human well-being, we have to ensure environmental health, we have to ensure animal health, and we have to have, then only we'll have good human health. And this is what is collectively called as one health. Because the scientists realized that the reason, the major mother cause of this pandemic was the way we have fiddled with the nature. So therefore, if we want to realize the mission 2050 that has been set out globally, that is the mission of living in harmony with nature, then we need to undertake changes in our thought processes, in our approaches, in our actions, in our thought process from more individualistic to more organismic, and in our approaches from more discipline centric to more kind of more multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary way, and in actions from more anthropocentric to rather ecocentric actions. So, dear colleagues, the way forward, therefore, I see is that whatever science is being done in research institutions or universities, there has to be a common man summary of scientific research that is done. जो भी, for example, thesis submit होती है साइंस में, उसकी एक कॉमन मैन समरी होनी चाहिए, एक एब्स्ट्रैक्ट होना चाहिए, वन पेजर, जो एक आम आदमी समझ सके. How can we decide about the research questions? अब फॉर एग्जाम्पल हम अपने रिसर्च स्टूडेंट को प्रॉब्लम देते हैं, आप इस पर रिसर्च कर लो. Do we discuss that problem with our society? For example, we are in the plant science department. Do we see what the problems in the forest? Do we discuss with the forest department? Do we discuss with the Lauda, for example, what are the issues in the Dal Lake? Do we discuss with the Pollution Control Board what they would like us to do? So that is, I would say, that research has to happen, and there has to be a robust feedback. जो हमने research, for example, आज तक की है, what does our society think about that? What do our stakeholders think about that? And then how best we can integrate our traditional wisdom with modern science is something very important. And there's a book called The Science of Happiness, which talks about some principles, in fact, 6 principles of happy life, and different strategies of achieving this happy life, by this B. Kelly. One should read it. So the take home, dear colleagues, therefore, is I will try to wind up with this, that science is something, which should help us in creating new stories, stories that are, you know, good to people to listen to and benefit from. And something that I have for example, recently written is that science without story is no glory. Connect it around and create a memory. So, in that context, whatever research we do, I believe personally that it has to make some sense to the common man. If it does not, then there are issues in the, although I believe in basic sciences, which apparently does not seem to be relevant to the common man in short term, but in the long term it has long dividends. We don't have time to basically deliberate upon those. But something that I thought about this, that for example, if I since I try to put it this way, I mean, told a layman that have done something great. For example, I have done something great in science. I'm told a layman that have done something great. Does it touch my life? He asked it straight. ठीक है ना? जो भी हम साइंस करेंगे, if it does not touch our life, doesn't mean much to them. So I had to think a lot while he did wait, not finding an answer, so losing all my weight. So, dear colleagues, in science, we come for doing science, but we should stay for creating stories and live with the stories. With this, I thank you for your attention, and I would be happy to take questions if there are any. Any questions, please?
If you are having any questions, you can ask to the expert. Participants, any doubt, any question, any suggestion, you can put forth your question to our expert. Yawer Binti Sadiq, Nasir Sanola, and coordinator from Government Degree College, Pulwama. Sir, if you are having any question, suggestion, you can put forth your question to our guest, our speaker right now. Asif Majid Sofi. Kumud Verma is with us. Yes, Kumud. Kumud Verma.
I think all the questions have been answered. So a thought process has been evoked by the very insightful lecture given by Professor Manzoor Saab. So I think that has set the context, and to me, the takeaway from this is that science without story is no glory, and we have to connect it around, and we have to create a memory so as to basically take the benefit of the science and the scientific innovations that are being done in the interest of the humanity. So, so nice of you for sparing your valuable time, Manzoor Saab, for us. I know your busy schedule, being director DICA, so how much you are busy, and you are busy with so many research projects and research work that you are at present doing. So, I'm humbly saying it that we are really enlightened by your thoughts, by your thought-provoking lecture, by the many insights that you have provided us through this lecture. So, highly thankful to
It
you,
is a
sir.
it is a pleasure. It was always a pleasure. Actually, I mean, because of the timing, this is like a bit critical. I had to rush. There are many other good stories to share with you. Maybe next time. Thank you once again, Dr. Shanawaz sir, for getting me here.
I could understand, sir. Basically, now the technology has created a space where we are conducting all the meetings on the virtual space. So believe me, we had a meeting we started from 11, and that meeting was going on. And then we have to start this meeting. And then in the second half, we have two
I
more
know.
minutes to sign it up. So one is from 2 and another is from 3. And believe me, third is from 4 p.m. onwards. So we have 3 more meetings lined up in the second half. So keeping those limitations in view, so you have to basically adjust the time, and you have to uh, request the resource
I
persons
know.
to be kind enough to accept that time limitations that we have with us. So thank you very much for that, also for being responsive in the sense that time limitation was there for you, and then still you made it. Thank you very much, sir, for that also.
So with
My pleasure.
this,
God bless you all.
I would like to thank our esteemed speaker for sparing his valuable time. And on a very short notice, as our RP sir has told, you have accepted our invitation to deliver this lecture, and we are very thankful, sir, for this. And I would like to thank our participants who have joined from all the study centers. Assistant Regional Director have joined, and our section in charge have joined for this important lecture. And with these words, I would like to thank our esteemed Regional Director for inviting such a good personality, so that we will be familiar with the importance of this National Science Day. So with this, thanks all, and thanks. And the lecture comes to an end. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
Manju
Assalamu
Saab.
alaikum.
Thank you, Manju Saab.